all of their political contributions. The White House claims that this would provide transparency to taxpayers, but top lawmakers on both sides of the aisle warn that this could lead to blacklisting. Let's bring in Simon Rosenberg. He's a former President Clinton campaign advisor and president of NDN, and Brad Blakeman, former deputy assistant president to George W. Bush. Brad, I want to start with you. This begs the question, why does the White House want to know what political contributions these companies have made before they'll grant a government contract? Why do they want to know this?
They want to intimidate possible people who make an appointment to bid on federal contracts. Look, there are two things bad about the president's decision. One is it's got bipartisan sides of the aisle absolutely livid that this has come out of left field. Why now, they're asking themselves. Number two is it has an immediate effect of intimidation, intimidating those people who seek to do business with the government. And then the other troubling factor is people are going to now be thinking to themselves, do I have to make a contribution to a particular party in order to be eligible to get a bid and to get a contract? Or on the other hand, am I going to be penalized if they look at my contract and see that I've made contributions to a party that's not in favor or in power at the time?
Yeah,
it's
Simon,
bad policy.
Simon, those are fair questions, right?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, that most contributions are already public. I mean, if your company has a PAC, or if you're a nonprofit and you give money to a federal candidate, that stuff is already public. So the law already requires public disclosure of political contributions of all corporations in the United States. What's happened is that in recent years, there's a new category of giving, this sort of shadowy 527, 501c4 giving that is exempt from that. And what the president is saying is that this basic rule of transparency that's already been the law of the land for 100 years should be extended to this new category of giving. I don't think this is in any way extreme. I think the reaction from the Republican Party is kind of extraordinary right now because it applies to labor unions, nonprofits, companies. It applies to
Simon,
anybody who's applying for a government grant.
Even the biggest supporters within your party, Steny Hoyer, who's the minority leader of the House, is totally against this.
Let me read to you,
a power grab by the White House.
To interrupt. Let me read to you what Steny Hoyer has said, and then we can have Simon respond to that. Here's what he said. It's not a requirement now. I don't think it ought to be a requirement. So I'm not in agreement with this administration on this issue. Again, just notable, Simon, that one of the leading Democrats doesn't like it.
Yeah. Look, there's virtually no piece of legislation in Washington gets unanimous support in either party, right? I don't think it's surprising there's a debate about this. But I'm with the president on this. I think that the American people, the law of the land already requires disclosure. This has been a common practice
but it's not
for
part
generations.
Of the bidding process that you have to affirmatively disclose it before you can get a contract. You know, this administration has used executive order. They're supposed to be, Simon, they're supposed to be the executive branch, not the superior branch.
Okay,
and if you want to make campaign reform, do it the way you're supposed to do it by legislation.
I don't understand how this is any different. All I'm saying is I don't understand, since these companies are required already to disclose their political contributions. It's causally. Brad, you're jumping way ahead here. No one is connecting this causally to the process of getting a government contract. You're connecting that. The president isn't.
What
the president is saying, and if I can finish, Brad, if I can finish, Brad, I'd like to finish, is that I'd like to get my chance here, is that the point is, what he's saying is this concept of disclosure, which has been the way we've governed our political giving for generations, should be applied to all political gifts. This is no big leap. This is not some monstrous new initiative, and I think there'll be a public debate about it, and I think the president's going to win on this one.
Okay, Brad, so to Simon's point, the White House says it's about transparency. Shouldn't taxpayers know who is getting government contracts?
Yes, they should, but not as part of the affirmative process of getting a government contract. Look, if the president thinks that campaign finance laws or contracting laws should be changed, there's a method to do that, and it's called legislation, where we can have open and fair debate. I think that's why you're seeing Democrats in the House and the Senate coming out so strongly against this, because this is a power grab by the White House. Remember, the executive branch is a co-equal branch, not a superior branch, and the president cannot just by whim sign an executive order and bind the Congress.
All I can say is that people who complain about having to tell things that they do are usually hiding something, right? And if there wasn't such a huge cry here, now what's happened is the Republicans have made it clear that they got something to hide, that they're doing things that people aren't going to like.
But Simon, hold on one second.
Nothing to hide, then disclose. Then disclose. What's the problem then, Brad?
Here's the problem, Simon. Even if it isn't intended to be a blacklist, couldn't it somehow be abused where if you find out, oh, interesting, this contractor has given to Republican candidates, perhaps I'm not interested.
All that information is already publicly available. If these companies have political action committees, then the way that the money that they already give out to federal office holders has been publicly available for generations.
Affirmatively part process where you have to disclose it in order to get a contract. These people wouldn't have this information,
Brad,
and it should be part of the bidding process.
Frankly ridiculous.
Last word, Simon.
Okay, what he's saying is that there is that the government, the policy of disclosure of political contributions, which has been the law of the land for generations, should be applied to a new category of giving. I agree with him on this. If the companies, I don't understand why the Republicans are so scared of this. If they have nothing to hide, then bring it on.
We don't like the American people being intimidated. We don't think the government should be intimidating people.
I don't think that GE is going to be intimidated by this process, Brad.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much for coming in and having this fair and balanced debate and trying to explain this process to us. We'll see what happens with this White House proposal. Simon Rosenberg and Brad Blakeman, I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
All right, meanwhile, a new